Hey, everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. I have just a few minutes. I'm literally racing the clock to accomplish a couple of things. I'm recording this at 3:30 on Friday, so regardless of what YouTube says, it ain't live when you see it. It's 3:30 on Friday the 13th. Ooh, Friday the 13th. I have to leave in just a little bit for a clandestine operation. Probably a good clandestine operation, but either way, we'll be telling you about it after the clandestine part of it's over. And there's just a couple things I wanted to try to wrap up before we get out on the road. First of all, I want to say thank you to our loyal core listeners and viewers. I just really, really appreciate you. I feel like this has been a pretty strong week. I don't know if our overall viewership is the highest this week. It's not really the point, but on Tuesday, we introduced the concept of never speak against the syndicate, the family, or the system, and followed up last night with that. And I was very, very happy with some of the ground that we covered. On Wednesday, I was able to host Pastor Ray, John Mark Baker from Minor Prophets, Stephen Powell of Line of Light Ministries, and that's one of the highlights. If this is a career, it'd be a highlight of my career. But what I want to accomplish in just a few minutes, because I really do have to take off here in a minute. There's three things that I'm hoping to do. This whole concept of never speak against the family, never speak against the system, never speak against the syndicate. That whole thing, I want to nail that down just a little more with maybe a slightly different take on it that'll help anybody that's struggling with the concept. And no, I am not going to replay any of the media that I've already used. In fact, I'm not going to play any media at all. So we're going to look at that. I do want to address the thumbnail and the title of this video. The Trump administration hires Sean Feucht as national worship leader. Well, not exactly, but kind of yes, but we're going to look at that. And if there's time, I'm going to take 5 minutes. And for the 300th or maybe the 400th or 500th time, yes, I'm exaggerating. I'm just going to show the scriptures to refute once again the whole touch not my anointed thing. I want to smash that false doctrine and reduce it to crumbs. But we got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time, so let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be
By the way, if you would like to be a blessing to Ohio for Freedom, that's how we survive. That's how we continue to do what we do. And there is a lot to do. We got a few things in the works that you'll be hearing about sooner rather than later. But if you'd like to support the program, it's certainly appreciated. You can do so by going to our website, which that's the front page that you see on the screen right there, Ohio for Freedom. You can click the donate tab. It'll look like this. And we have a PayPal link. You can certainly use PayPal. We very, very much appreciate it. Whatever card system you use to do online things, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, the bank card link is right there. And our Zelle link. Zelle is instant. Zelle is 0 fees. Zelle is anonymous because we do not get an email from Zelle so that we can send you a thank you. So we always say thank you in advance. And thank you to the people that have discovered that, yes, it works. We have a P.O. Box, Ohio for Freedom, P.O. Box 344, Mason, Ohio. We don't live in Mason, but Mason is like the post office is like a mile from this place where I am right now. Ohio for Freedom, P.O. Box 344, Mason, Ohio 45040. Your support is very, very, very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Here's the take that I want to kind of button this down for a while, because the whole touch not my anointed, never say something against a preacher. I really felt pretty good this week about kind of expanding that to what I think is its real meaning is I think virtually whenever anybody engages in reciting that false doctrine, they're really attempting to protect the wicked syndicate, the system, the family. And that might be a hard concept for some to really wrap their head around. And so here's what I want to just talk about. In our downtime, in the last week, my wife and I watched a very interesting and very well done, I'll even say enjoyable, except that it was actually very troubling at the same time, documentary. And it's called 137 Shots. It's on Netflix. It might be called 137 Bullets. I don't think so. 137 is in the title. And it's set in the days of maybe the first year of the Obama administration, but in Cleveland, Ohio. So that's the time frame. And the main story is that there was a man, and I believe it was a cousin or a sister, in a economically depressed part of Cleveland, and they got into an automobile, and one of them may have been doing some drugs. I am not for doing drugs. I am not saying that that's a good thing. I am saying that's not a reason to get shot, because what ended up happening was that an undercover, happened to be African-American undercover agent, was really hoping that they would slip up, and they forgot to turn a turn signal on. And as the car was traveling, the car backfired, made a popping kind of sound. Ooh, and the game was on. And before you know it, some 15 or more cop cars are swarming on this vehicle. It scares them beyond wits, and a high-speed chase ensues. And for like an hour, I may have a few of the details a little rough. That's not the main point, but it's like some of the speeds involved were like 125 miles an hour. Isn't that a little overkill for two people in a vehicle? But see, the engine backfired. So, has a gun. Suspect may have a gun. And when the couple, they weren't man and wife, but I mean, when the vehicle finally came to a stop, and a dozen police cars swarm around them, 137 shots were fired in total. And one young man, 37 years of age, because he was so fearful for his life, absolutely petrified, going to Iraq and dealing with that. Oh no, that didn't even compare. He would later testify he'd never been more fearful in his life. And so he was so fearful, he jumped on the hood of the car and unloaded 13 shots and ended the lives of a precious man and a precious woman. And so the documentary is about how it was handled by the prosecutor and by the court system and by the police department. And what is really, really, really upsetting about this documentary is that you find out that there were a number of policemen that were very troubled by what the person did when they unloaded 13. He's standing on the hood of the car, shooting through the windshield and ending the lives of two unarmed civilians. And they all stuck together. They all stuck together. It's just amazing. For me, it'll make your blood boil. It will absolutely make your blood boil. And it's showing courtroom video, and the prosecutor, one of them is like, I'm going to plead the fifth. And folks, this wasn't even a jury trial. It was a bench trial. I believe it was a bench trial where the judge, the same judge that's calling balls and strikes on what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's evidence, what's not evidence. Here's an example. One of the people called to the witness stand said, well, I'm going to take the fifth. And the prosecutor stands up and says, Your Honor, if you allow this, every one of these other officers is going to do the same thing. And you can hear the judge say, I don't think there's any precedent for us to believe that would ever happen. And guess what? That is exactly what happened. And I didn't get a picture of him because I want to show you some pictures in a moment. There's an extremely obese, white, probably police union like officer thug. And it's like in his world, it's impossible for a policeman to ever do anything wrong. And I am not knocking the police. I am not denigrating the police, but it's just like the church. No one should be above scrutiny, and there should always be transparency. And if you were to watch this documentary, you would not be happy. And so the same judge that called the balls and strikes is the one that let the shooter that stood on the hood of the car and unloaded 13 bullets through a windshield on 2 unarmed people and just let them go. Let them go. That was it. You're innocent. The city kept him on the payroll for 3 years and then finally fired him when a new administration got in. But then I'm not through talking about this. This documentary really, I think that I can illustrate this, because while the officer in question, the one that fired the rounds that ended those 2 innocent lives, while this is, the time that it takes for initial arraignment or grand jury, and then it actually goes to trial, in the middle of all this, I'm going to show you the slides. There was a 12-year-old boy that was murdered, in my opinion, happens to be right, by the Cleveland Police Department. And I grabbed the video, but I'm not going to play the video, but I can play screenshots. I just don't want to get crosswise at copyrights and copyright strikes. And so I guess I'm just going to go there right now. And let's pull this up right here. Okay. So this is what is going on in the city of Cleveland while they're waiting for this previous debacle where these 2 innocent people were killed by that police officer to go to trial. And if you look at the screen, you see that there is a 12-year-old boy standing on the sidewalk, and he's down by the park. And you can see the caption is, I'm sitting, and this is someone that called in to 911. I'm sitting in the park at West Cudell. I'm going to call it Cudell. I think that's how they pronounce that. And then he says, there's a guy with a pistol, and it's this 12-year-old boy. And then he says, he's probably a juvenile, So I'm going to stop right there, folks. What you had a 12-year-old boy with a play gun. And he's out going, pow, pow, bang, bang, whatever he says. Now, you know what? That might not be the smartest thing to do, especially in his neighborhood. But he's a 12-year-old kid. When I was a kid, a little boy, I had some play guns, and we played with them. And people could say, well, he should have been playing in his backyard. He doesn't have a backyard. He doesn't have a front yard. This is the world he lives in. He's in the park because this is where he lives. These are the outdoors available to him. And, maybe he was having some fun and maybe that wasn't what, but he's a 12-year-old kid with a plastic gun. Now watch this. Please look at the right of the screen. Now see what happened? At the right of the screen, you see a black object barely show up. I'm going to go, there it is again. That is the hood of the police cruiser that is screaming in there at he's coming to a stop from going like 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, and going to stop right in the middle, right in front of this pavilion or whatever it is. So I'm going to get out of that. One more time, you'll see that on the right, you'll see that screen or that car coming in. And notice, if you look under the pavilion, you see the little boy, the 12-year-old boy standing there. And guys, this happens in about a second or two. I'm going to move it ahead. Now you see that this police cruiser, it's not slowly moving in. I mean, this is moving fast. This was from security camera footage across the street. You see the boy still standing there. You don't see his hands out. You see his hands down. And look at this. You still see that boy. His hands are down, and you may not be able to tell, but what's happening is there's a cop coming out of the police car, He's opening the door, and then he point blank shoots him. Point blank shoots him. And when you watch the video, it really looks about this speed. Here, 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 boom, shoots him. And there, look at this picture. This is like less than a second later. This all takes place in about a second. You see on the left, you see the boy's sister running up saying, "Oh my God, my brother." And then you see the cop immediately wrestle this kid down to the ground, wrestle the kid down to the ground, and then put him in the cop car. Folks, when you see this video, and again, I don't feel comfortable playing the video. I just don't want to get the copyright strike thing. But it literally, the kid, okay, so he's playing guns. What I want to point out is the cops never rolled up and from a half a block away said, "This is the police. Put your weapon down." You think that 12-year-old kid wouldn't have done that? They didn't even do any of that stuff. They just rolled up, and about that fast, he was dead. And this happens during the period of time where they've gone from grand jury to the actual bench trial. And guess what? They have a grand jury for this, and they don't even press charges. And what's really the reason I wanted to invest like 15 minutes of Ohio for Freedom time talking about this is because I think there was a whole lot of corruption at that time in the Cleveland Police Department. There may still be, I have no idea, but a lot of corruption and a lot of racism and a lot of just a lot of that. But not every cop on the Cleveland Police Department was bad. There's probably good cops. In fact, it could be at the time that most of the Cleveland Police Department was good and honorable. It could be that the good and honorable police were in the minority. But here is the reason I've invested valuable Ohio for Freedom time to talk about this. One thing that, in my opinion, happens to be right, and I believe that's the opinion of the documentary, but one thing that was really on display and I believe well demonstrated by this documentary is that good cop, bad cop, right or wrong, doesn't matter. When a cop is in trouble because of their own making, if a cop is called into question for their violation of their duty and violation of their oaths, and when they have overstepped and taken innocent life, it don't matter. You all stick together. You never speak against the cop system. You never speak against the union. You all stick together. And it makes you wonder, maybe it's this really heavy over morbidly obese, bald-headed white guy that looks like he never gets any sunlight. Just hearing him talk, my skin crawls. My skin, but you just get the sense he would defend the most wicked of police brutality. It just makes my skin, it just boils my blood. It really, really does. But you see, how much different is that from what we see in the church world that we've been reporting on? And here's the thing. Most cops are good. We need cops. We need policing. We need people to handle domestic violence and robberies and bank. We need police, but we also need transparency and we need honesty. And so if it's a difficult thing for somebody to wrap your head around, the never speak against the syndicate, like the mob, never speak against the syndicate, never speak against the system, never speak against the family. Well, here's a pretty good example of an entity that we need. We need policing. We need law enforcement. But even in that arena, you can see the very same thing, where even a good cop that sees something that a bad cop did will feel such pressure that they will conform to the never speak against the system thing. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. In terms of I received an email from a viewer, and by the way, I also got this from the NRB. Seth Dillon to speak at NRB Freedom 250 celebration at 2026 convention. Okay, that's wonderful. I'm just going to read this email that I got. Sean Feucht, seriously, you can't make this stuff up. Hopefully, the events will include David Barton giving a history lesson on the location they're in, Sean Bolts to provide live data mined prophecy. They're kind of sarcastic, or maybe not, since he likes to take his clothes off. Twin Mikes, Mike Bickle and Michael Brown, to run the teen girls ministry. Daystar's Josh Brown to run the children's ministry, and Daystar to show the events live around the world. Or maybe Josh Brown should be in Sean's worship band to free up some of Sean's time so he can oversee his directive to volunteers to hide the offerings. This person's got a sense of humor. Or he could leave the accounting to Doug Wise, since Doug has experience in filing inaccurate 990s and not getting caught. Here's the deal. The Trump administration, as we understand it, and I'm going to play the video announcement from Sean Feucht himself. So there's the Paula White Faith Office, if I understand this correctly, but Sean can set us straight, is working with the 250 foundation or whatever it is to basically partner with, i.e. hire Sean Feucht to hold worship events around the nation to honor our 250-year anniversary. I'm just going to play this and
history of Let Us Worship. But the coolest part, guys, is we get to do it together with the Freedom 250 organization, which is the White House Trump administration arm executing the mandate of celebrating America's 250-year birthday. We're so excited. We have come into an agreement with them to partner together, to collaborate together. They're going to be coming out to some of our events. We're going to be championing other things they're doing. And so it's just very, very amazing. It is a dream come true and such a blessing to know that we get to, of course, you know, we did this stuff in the Biden era. We did this stuff when we were hunted down by governors and mayors and we were fined and all that kind of stuff. But it's just an amazing season from God to be able to do this in partnership with our own government and to know that they have our back and to be able to be an extension of literally like the faith office inside of the White House, all the people that are praying inside of there, so many members of the cabinet in the Trump administration love Jesus, and they're going to be a part of this in various ways. So
there you go. I really don't want to take anymore. Can't take anymore. But there's your Paula White Faith Office in action, evidently. I'm going by this email. I'm going by this video and a couple of other things that I've seen. And I'll just say the idea of Sean Feucht getting a contract from, I don't care if it's big, a contract from a grant to a big foundation where the money came from the taxpayer going into Sean Feucht. It troubles me. I don't like it. Does it mean that we have lost? No, but what it does mean is that we, and when I say we, I'm talking about people that follow programs like Laura Lynn's, like Pastor Ray's, like John T's, Vanessa's, like you, all the people that have a sense of what's going on and the cleanup that needs to be happening in the church. We're not done yet, folks, because when it's a victory to have Paula White in the White House, when it's a victory to have Sean Feucht, who enriched himself during the I won't litigate that right now. When that is a victory, we still have a lot of work to do. But the good news is we're gaining ground. So I just wanted to mention that. And I wanted to thank my viewer. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the first name or not, but thank you very, very much. And y'all, I just want to close. Can we just do this real quick? Just for the, I think it's the 456th time or the 457th time. But just one more time, I'm going to go down this trail of the touch not my anointed. So I'm going over to our scripture cam, and you can become an expert on this subject in and by reading 3 chapters of scripture. You really, really can, and you can lay this one to rest. We are in Psalm 105, starting at verse 12. When they, I want to just point out that they is plural. It is not singular. When they were few indeed, and strangers, that is plural. They wandered, that is plural, from one kingdom to another. I believe that's 3 plurals so far. He let no man oppress them. Them is decidedly plural. He rebuked kings on their, that's plural, behalf. Are we up to 6? I think it is. Touch not, do not touch my anointed ones. So let me back up and say this whole touch not my anointed or do not touch my anointed, it's talking about plural, the people of God. The people of God. And it was spoken to kings, pagan kings. God was saying, do not oppress my people, my anointed ones. Don't you do it, you pagan kings. It was not written or spoken to congregation members, church members regarding preachers. The verse 15 again says, do not touch my anointed ones. And for good measure, it throws in, do no harm to my prophets. But who was he speaking to? Verse 14, he let no man oppress them. He rebuked kings. So Psalm 105 is a rebuke of kings. So that's where the touch not my anointed first originates. And now we will go over to David and Saul, King Saul. The spirit has departed from Saul. Saul is jealous of David. King Saul wants to destroy David, and David is having to keep from being killed by Saul, but he refuses to kill Saul. And so we will pick up this story in the 24th chapter of 1 Samuel. And it begins at the first of the chapter. Saul had returned from pursuing the Philistines, and he was told, somebody told him, David's in the wilderness in Jedi, however you say that. So Saul took 3,000 chosen men, and he's chasing after David. And verse 3 says that soon Saul came to the sheepfolds along the road. There was a cave. He went in to relieve himself. So he wanted to relieve himself, go to the restroom in private, and David and his men were hiding in the recesses of the cave. David's men said, this is the day the Lord said, behold, I'll deliver your enemy into your hand, that you may do with him as you wish. David crept up stealthily, cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Now, I am going to spend some time on this right here. Afterwards, David's conscience was stricken. I want to talk about his conscience being stricken. But I want to point out, David did not kill Saul. It would have been very easy. If he was able to get close enough to cut off a corner of Saul's robe while Saul was preoccupied, he could have easily killed him. There weren't any guards around. He could have easily killed him, but he didn't. So he did not touch Saul. He didn't touch him at all. I want to say something about this conscience, because I played a clip last night where Mike Signorelli is making stuff out of thin air. David said, man, I repented, man, that I even got close, his conscience, and he repented. David never repented. Now, because he didn't do anything wrong. But I want to say something about this conscience thing. Afterwards, David's conscience was stricken. Can I tell you where you could find a really good example of this? I will tell you, I did not have time to pull it. If you can go back about a week to Laura Lynn's program where she is speaking to Sherelle. Sherelle, a former Bethel student, her and her husband are mature, they are pastors, but Sherelle was doing a live program with Sean Boltz before she knew that there was a problem with Sean Boltz. But Sherelle had called a friend of hers that she trusted, that she regards as very prophetic and just very, very solid in the Lord. And in the middle of this live call-in thing where Sean's given all these data mined words, now Sherelle didn't know that was happening. This friend of hers says, I've got to go to the bathroom, excuse me. And off camera, he calls a friend. And what they're doing is they are feeding Sean the names of people they want him to prophesy to. And it's obvious that he is data mining fake profiles because they were feeding him the fake profiles that they had created. They were catching him red-handed. But you know what? If you watch that episode, it was freaky. Sherelle is describing her interaction with her friend, and it just got kind of weird. It just got kind of crazy. Why? I would say for what you're looking at right here. David's conscience was stricken because David should never have had to have been in that situation. He's going through a recalibration, if you will. But let me keep this rolling. Verse 8. After that, David got up, went out of the cave, and called out to Saul, my Lord the king. Now, what is he doing? He is openly calling Saul out in front of Saul and all of his generals and all of his people, and David was doing so in front of his own men. So, David did not touch, did not harm, did not kill King Saul, but he did call him out publicly. And if the whole thing about his conscience actually meant that he repented, that's what Mike Signorelli says. Mike Signorelli is wrong about that, the same way he's wrong about calling himself an apostle. He's not an apostle. But the proof of that is we are now going to go over to the 24th chapter. This is only 2 chapters later, and it is almost an exact replay of the same thing. This time in verse 1, the Ziphites came to Saul and told Saul where David was. He's hiding on a hill. So Saul camped, verse 3, beside the road, but David was living in the wilderness. Okay, I'm moving through this quick. Okay, verse 6, and David asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, who will go down with me to Saul in the camp? I will go with you, answers Abishai. So look at verse 7. That night, David and Abishai came to the troops. Saul was lying there asleep in the inner circle of the camp with his spear stuck in the ground by his head, and Abner and the troops were lying around him. And so I'm moving kind of quickly, y'all. In verse 9, David said to Abishai, do not destroy him. Who can extend a hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? So, and in verse 11, the Lord forbid that I should extend my hand against the Lord's anointed. Listen to this. Instead, take the spear and the water jug by his head and let us go. So they took the spear and the water jug. And then we're going to I think we can nail it now with verse 13. David crossed the other side, got a safe distance away, stood atop the mountain at a distance. There was a wide gulf between them, so he got a safe distance away. David shouted to the troops, and Abner, son of Ner, will you not answer me, Abner? Now, Abner was Saul's chief of security. You keep reading. King Saul gets involved. In other words, it's the same thing. He could have easily killed him, but he didn't. He didn't touch Saul, but he immediately publicly called him out. But it'll happen though. I don't want to hear this false touch not my anointed stuff happening no more. Folks, we are way out of time. I got to get on the road. If you would like to be a blessing to the program, it is very, very much appreciated. And you can go to our website. And I just wanted to say thank you. And we'll be reporting over the weekend, but we're off to our clandestine meeting right now. So God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio and the United States of America and friends around the world. We got to go.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.